I've seen what you've been saying publicly about this Israel attack on Iran. If you're Israel and you see that report from the Atomic Agency, which appears to suggest that Iran has been lying, obfuscating, covering up, not allowing proper inspections and so on, and now appears to have reached 60% enrichment of uranium, which is the next stage it can reach, where now it can be imminent, it can be within months, that it could potentially get to nuclear power. Can you at least, without agreeing with it, can you understand why Israel has felt threatened by that report?
So, Piers, thanks for having me back. I'm glad you started by asking about the IAEA report, because I know you brought it up with your panel as well. And I just want your viewers at home to be clear, because you described it accurately a moment ago, what the report says. I've read the 22-page report, came out May 31st, declassified. But on Friday, I was disappointed to see you tweeting about, you said the report exposes an imminent nuclear threat from Iran, which could justify a preemptive strike. What we saw on Thursday night from Israel was not a preemptive strike. It was a preventive strike, which is illegal under international law. It's what George Bush and the neocons claimed the Iraq war was against Saddam Hussein, which you and I opposed, rightly so. And that IAEA report does not expose an imminent nuclear threat. It says what you just said it says. It says that they haven't been cooperating very well. It says their level of cooperation has been, quote, less than satisfactory. It says some of their technical answers about their program have lacked credibility. It says they've impeded some of the inspectors. It says that they were working on some kind of military program pre-2003, which is what US intelligence has also said. Those are all bad things, Piers. You and I can both agree those are bad things, and Iran should not be doing those things. And the IAEA board voted to say they're in breach of their obligations. But that's not an imminent nuclear threat. The report does not say Iran poses an imminent nuclear threat. Your tweet was wrong on Friday.
I think it's as I just said.
Nuclear,
when it says 60% enrichment of uranium, it's the next stage that somebody who wants to create a nuclear bomb, right? So imminent, look, what do I mean by imminent? As I said in the panel, it can be weeks, months, a year, whatever, but they've reached a stage of enrichment.
No, it can't, Piers.
They have the capability to take it to another stage and create a bomb.
Yes, so let's find more agreement between us. I agree. That is capability, right? They have enough highly enriched uranium to build up to 9 bombs, I believe. They have 400 kilograms of uranium.
So that is an imminent threat if it's in the wrong hands, right? We can agree on that.
No, it's not.
But why not?
No, because having a civil nuclear program is totally fine. Having enriched uranium is fine. The issue is if you weaponize it and have a weapons program. And Tulsi Gabbard, no friend of radical Islam, Donald Trump's director of national intelligence, said in March that the US intelligence community's consensus view is that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, does not have a nuclear weapon, has not authorized a nuclear weapons program. The IAEA, Piers, in that report, you must have seen the line in their summary, said there are no credible indications of an ongoing, undeclared, structured nuclear program. Even the IAEA says there's no nuclear weapons program. Their boss, the IAEA chief, Piers, said last week, you cannot attack nuclear facilities in Iran. So, no, it's not an imminent threat. And under international law, Piers, this is the key point. If a weapon is a year away, you cannot say we're under imminent threat. That does not give you a right to self-defense. Otherwise, everyone in the world would go around just bombing people. You and I oppose Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We agree on that, right? Putin claimed that Ukraine would one day attack Russia with NATO support. That's why I'm doing it. That was a bullshit argument. You and I rejected Putin's bullshit argument in Ukraine. You and I have rejected the Israeli bullshit argument now in Gaza. You don't believe what they're saying about Gaza. I don't know why you're believing them on this when you were rightly calling out the bullshit from the UK and the US in 2003 over Iraq. Saddam Hussein was not an imminent threat, and Iran was not an imminent threat, and Israel attacked them illegally last week while there were nuclear negotiations going on, Piers. One last point. If Israel cared about stopping a nuclear weapon, you would go back into a nuclear deal that prevents Iran from a weapon. And guess who they killed on Thursday night? Not just generals, Piers. They killed Ali Shamkhani, the lead nuclear negotiator who was supposed to be in Oman yesterday with the Americans and who went on NBC a month ago and said, we're very close to a deal, we're willing to give up highly enriched uranium.
But Trump did say, didn't he? Trump did say, but hang on, on the deal, Trump said, look, you've got 60 days, right? And Israel attacked on day 61. In other words, they gave Iran the chance to negotiate. Well, that is what Trump said.
Well, Trump's a liar. Why were they meeting in Oman on Sunday then? Well, if there were only 60 days, why were the Americans supposed to be meeting yesterday?
All I'm saying is, it is a fact, the sequence of events.
Answer the quiz.
Hang on.
It's not a fact, though, is it? It's not a fact.
It is a fact that Trump said 60 days.
Were they not?
It is a fact he said 60 days.
But that's a lie. But that wasn't a 60 days, otherwise we bomb you. That was Netanyahu. By the way, let's be clear.
I agree.
Netanyahu wants this war more than Trump.
I agree. I'm just saying that Netanyahu did wait. He did wait till day 61 of Trump's 60 days get a deal done.
No, because why was there a nuclear negotiation scheduled on Sunday between the Americans and the Iranians, which is now not happening? Who benefits from that? Netanyahu. The hawks who want a war. They don't want a deal. Otherwise, you wouldn't kill
unless you think that Trump tacitly wants this to happen, which he might well do.
Maybe. I mean, I don't try and mind read Trump. You can. You know him better than me. The man's a liar. He's erratic. He's unhinged. Who knows? I mean, he claims to be anti-war. Remember all all that bullshit. I came on your show last year, Piers. How many times did I hear people telling me bullshit about Trump being anti-war? He went to Michigan and said, I won't get involved in a war in the Middle East. And here we are now, several hundred people dead in Israel and Iran, completely preventable conflict, done with Trump's blessing. And as I say, if you're worried about highly enriched uranium, blame Trump, right? He tore up the nuclear deal in 2018, Piers. In 2018, Iran was enriching uranium at what percentage? 3.67%. And the IAEA said, yep, we verify it. We have no complaints. We verify that Iran is in accordance with this deal. And Trump tore it up. And today, 60% highly enriched uranium, 400 kilograms. That's on Donald Trump. We had the JCPOA.
But aren't you just there? Aren't you just, if you don't mind me saying, aren't you just explaining very articulately why Israel has got so twitchy about this? Gone from 3% to 60%, as you said. That's not a small...
But who did that, right? But
you can blame who you like. You can blame who you like, but the way you described that sounded to me like you were presenting a fast-moving, imminent threat.
No. Okay, it's a good question. Let me answer it. No, what I was presenting was that there was a deal that worked. Trump and the Israelis tore up the deal that worked. Now Iran is definitely, you and I have already agreed, that they have potential to be closer to a bomb today than they were in 2018. So the solution is not then to go to war and increase the chances of Iran rushing for a bomb. The solution is to go back into a deal, to negotiate an agreement. Piers, just for your viewers, there are only two ways. Every military expert agrees, every US general agrees. There's only two ways to stop Iran from having a nuclear bomb. Number one is to invade and occupy the country and destroy every facility yourself. Number two is to have an agreement in which Iran agrees to stop enriching uranium at 60% or 90%. Right? Those are the two options.
I don't agree with that.
If other people prefer invasion,
there's actually a third option because
what's the third option? What is it?
Well, the third option is doing exactly what Israel's doing now, which is using air power, controlling the skies over Tehran, and using intelligence gathered by Mossad, apparently, reportedly, and using specific intelligence to target specific commanders, scientists, and nuclear sites. I mean, that's the third option.
That's not a third option because it doesn't stop the nuclear program. All it does is delay it. And in fact,
have you spoken to any military people? Be honest, Mehdi. Have you spoken to any military? I've got two former British Army colonels in my family. I ran this past them earlier. Both of them thought this was justified, right? Who are the military commanders you've talked to who do not think this is justified?
Admiral Mike McMullen, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under George W. Bush, said there's no way you can get rid of Iranian nuclear program without boots on the ground. And by the way, you know who said on Friday? The Israel's own national security advisor said on Friday, there is no kinetic solution to this. Air power cannot do this, right? Because some of their facilities are underground. Because scientists who killed can be replaced, right? You cannot end Iran's nuclear program via bombing. And by the way, Israel tried this before in 1981. They always hold it up as some great example. They bombed Saddam's nuclear facility in Osirak. Everyone who studied that since, nuclear scientists, weapons experts, say that actually that didn't delay Saddam's bomb. It accelerated Saddam's interest in nuclear weapons. He actually launched a covert nuclear program at another site over the next 9 years till obviously the Iraq invasion of Kuwait, right? So put yourself, Piers, you asked me a question at the beginning. It was a great question. Put yourself in Israel's shoes. We should always have empathy for whoever it is, enemies, allies. Let me ask the question back to you. Put yourself in the shoes of an Iranian official sitting in Tehran today who looks at a map of the region and sees Israel with nukes, Russia with nukes, Pakistan with nukes, India with nukes, nuclear-armed America next door in Iraq. Wouldn't you want nuclear weapons? I'm against nukes.
Yeah, but if you're the regime... but Mehdi,
if you look at...
But Mehdi, you wouldn't dispute...
Would you not think it's rational to have nukes?
My response would be this. You wouldn't dispute that Iran's tentacles have been fueling, for a long period of time, Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and I presume you wouldn't also dispute that the tactical attack on Hezbollah through the pages, 3,000 of them targeted in a very precise way, that has led to Hezbollah basically throwing the towel in and saying we're not going to get engaged in this war with Iran, which is a very significant moment in this whole war, I would argue.
If your question is, has Israel degraded Iran's supports abroad, its proxies, 100%, but that's irrelevant to the rightness or wrongness of this. I'm asking you to put yourself in the position
but all those proxies want to kill
Iranian government,
right? So that's why I think that Israel has a right.
Let's not get, as you've agreed, Israel's doing much of the killing right now, but let me just ask you this. Again, Ukraine gave up nukes, got invaded. Saddam Hussein gave up nukes, got invaded and executed. Gaddafi gave up chemical weapons, got invaded, raped and killed. Again, if you're the Iranians, are you not looking at this thinking, this means we need nukes? I would rather not give them an incentive to go get nuclear weapons. I'm anti-nuclear weapons for anyone. So I don't want Iran to have nukes, but the best way for Iran not to have nukes is not to attack them. That makes countries want to have nukes more. It's just rational to go, oh, the countries who have nukes like North Korea, they don't get invaded. So why give them an incentive to get more nukes? Why not actually have a weapons of mass destruction free region? You know which country does does have nukes in the Middle East? Israel, in violation of UN Security Council resolutions. You know which country doesn't allow IAEA inspectors into the country? Israel. You know which country hasn't signed the NPT, unlike Iran? Israel. We should talk about Israel's nuclear weapons, which actually incentivize others in the regions, not just Israel, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, to think about nuclear weapons of their own. I'd rather not have more nukes in the Middle East with anyone.